Alright, we are back for episode 5 of our painting the legions of the Horus Heresy without an airbrush. And today, as I'm sure you've seen on the thumbnail, we're painting the Space Wolves. And I will just point out before this video starts that you will see right here some lines, and right here some lines on this guy. I was experimenting with the technique for the Iron Warriors video, and I used this guy. It won't affect us for this video. You'll probably be able to notice it a little bit, but not a big deal. This is just a, for demonstration purposes, model, so if you can see the stripes a little bit at the end, oh well. But I should say I primed him with Uniform Gray from the Army Painter, and now we're going to start with Blue Horror and a big old dry brush like this. And we're just going to dry brush him with this color. So get some paint on the brush and then get most of it back off on just a piece of paper towel. And then we're just going to come in and just basically all over him, finding the edges of this guy here. Might not be very noticeable on camera, sometimes it isn't. But I promise you I can see it in real life. And on some of the more extreme edges, I'm sure you'll be able to see it. So like I said, just going all over him. A lot of this stuff will get painted a different color later, but for right now, just getting over every edge of this. And the key with dry brushing, which I heard recently, and I can't remember where I heard it. It's a good thing to keep in mind, though. I had never really heard of a way to exactly explain what I meant when I was trying to explain good dry brushing. But basically, you want dusty, not streaky. If you can see where your brush like dragged paint across your miniature, then you have too much paint on your brush. You just want it to appear dusty. So there we go. And normally I would say I'll wait for that to dry and then we'll come back and do the next step, but it already is pretty dry. So I'll go wash my dry brush since I don't need it anymore, and then we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, we're back and my dry brush is all nice and clean. Now we're going to move on to some Blood Angels Red. And we're just going to do the right shoulder pad in this color. Not a ton on this guy. And this isn't the perfect color to put this color over, but for our purposes it will work just fine. It still will show up as red, and that's all we're interested in. You could, if you wanted, do what I did in the Iron Warriors video and just paint over the shoulder pad first in a brighter white and then put this red on there. Personally, I kind of like the sort of duller red this gives us. And I think it works for Space Wolves better than if we put it over white. So that's the only red we're going to do on this guy. So I will not necessarily let that dry, but I will figure out what I'm going to do next and then come back and we'll do that. Alright, we are back and we're moving on to Black Templar now. And there's a fair amount, actually, that we're going to black out on this guy here. So I'm going to start with the thing I've started with on every one of these Marines, and that's the bolter here. We're going to paint a fair amount of silver onto this bolter, but we'll start off by just completely blacking it out so we don't have any primer showing anymore. And as I mentioned in some of the previous videos, the new contrast paint is coming out pretty soon, in a couple weeks here. And I don't remember what it's called, but I think there is a contrast paint that would work really well for these Heresy era Space Wolves. And so that'll definitely deserve a revisit This is just the scheme I sort of happened upon when I was painting my local store's demo copy. The store owner, a dot of black on the leg there. The store owner plays Space Wolves, and so he wanted half the box painted up as Space Wolves. And so this is just the scheme I decided to go with to make it easy. But let's see if I can get this little mark off here. I may not be able to. Well, good enough. We'll fix it with some, maybe some more dry brushing later. But that's fine for now. We'll just keep adding our black here. But yeah, so this is the paint scheme I came up with to make painting that demo copy super quick. I only had 2 days to paint the box set when that came out, so I needed something that was going to be quick and easy. I'm going to get the armor joints on this guy. Just being careful around the armor. Trying my best to keep the black off the armor where it doesn't belong. This brush I have here is getting a little old. It's starting to fray more easily, but it'll be alright. The point of this series is just to get an army out there quickly. So if we get a little bit of paint in a couple places we aren't supposed to, you know, the army will look fine altogether. Great, and I think that will just about do it. Oh, no, I'm going to do one more thing, actually. These lines here, I've done some of them in silver in the previous episodes, some in gold. I'm going to do these in black. So I'll finish this up, make sure there's nothing else that needs to be black, and then let it all dry, and we'll come back and do the next step. Alright, we are back, and we're going to move on to our silver now. And for that, we're going to use Iron Breaker. And we're going to do basically the same sort of stuff that we've done in the previous episodes. I'm going to start off with the bayonet here. And as with all previous episodes, just in case you're only watching this one, I will say if you chose the chain bayonet, then I would paint the teeth with this silver color, leave the body of the bayonet the same color as the bolter, in this case black, and then paint the part that connects it to the bolter right here in silver. I'm leaving that part black, however, though, and painting the main blade of this bayonet in silver. And I'm just getting all the raised bits here. And I'm going to paint the barrel here in silver. Make sure to get the other side. And then I'm going to paint in this here, and then all these little bandolier sections that go up his chest. Paint those in, leaving the black in between each one. Then the magazine, I think I'm just going to paint this line here in silver, and the bottom part in silver, and leave the magazine itself black. And then I'm going to paint these in silver. And then just the conduits back here And then the main 6 rivets on this backpack. Been talking a lot about these rivets in every episode. There are a bunch of rivets here. You could paint them all if you wanted, but since I'm focused on just showing how to get an army out there quickly, I think I'm just going to paint these main 6 ones and then leave the others just the color of the armor. And then I'm going to get the details on the side of the head here and the camera on top of his head. There we go. And then I'm going to switch to a slightly larger brush. And I'm just going to do the exhaust ports on the side of the backpack in silver. And that'll about do it for the silver, so I will come back in just a second and we'll do the gold. Alright, we're back and we're going to do 2 colors in this step. First, we're going to do Retributor armor for these bumps on his left shoulder pad here. So I'll just load up my brush here and then very carefully paint these bumps on. And then, as soon as we do this, I'm going to grab the color that we're going to paint the eye lenses. And we'll do that real quick, and then we'll let everything finish completely drying, and then we'll come back and do a little bit more dry brushing and some washing. So for the eye lenses, I'm going to use Screamer Pink. I'm just going to come in, careful not to get it on the armor. Just like that. And as I've explained in previous episodes of this series, you could go a lot more in depth on eye lenses. You could do a lighter color dot and then a white dot and all sorts of stuff, but we're just trying to get an army out, so a single color on there is just fine for us. So that'll do it, basically. We're going to come back as soon as everything is dry, put some Nuln Oil on there, put some more Blue Horror on there, and then we'll call it a day. Alright, we are back, and first we're going to do a little bit of weathering. So we're going to start with Blue Horror again, and we're going to do what we've done in the previous episodes, and sort of similar to what we did at the beginning, but a little bit different. We're going to get some paint on our brush, get most of it off, but a little bit less than we did in the beginning. And then we're just going to come and find the edges here, and just kind of drag down, or up, or across from the edges, just to get a little more weathering here. And this will give us some more highlights on our blue-gray armor here. Get a little more paint on here. There we go. We want kind of streaks. Just coming up from the sides of these armor panels. Maybe like something ricocheted off them or something like that. Who knows? There we go. Maybe right here. There's a bunch of edges right there. So, all right. So then, I'm just gonna rinse my brush off, and then we're gonna do the same thing with our red. But we're going to use some Aldebaran red from Scale 75. As previously stated in the other episodes, this is just Wild Rider red. I just don't have a pot of GW Wild Rider red right now, so I'm using the Scale 75. Just going to get some paint on the brush here, and then find the edge, and just come up like this. it'll look kind of weird on this one just because of these lines that are on it. But if you're painting your army, I assume you won't have practiced an Iron Warrior paint scheme on your miniatures before you paint them Space Wolves, so you won't have that issue. There we go. And now we're going to do our final step, which will be some null oil. Grab our null oil here, and we're just going to apply this to all the silver and black parts. Start with the bolter here. Get these circles down here. Just being careful not to get it on the armor where possible. Get these conduits and these exhaust ports here. I put it pretty heavily on the exhaust ports just so it really sits in the recesses and shades it pretty well, but you can make your own judgment call on that. And then I'm just going to go across the feet here, just give them a little more definition, just like that. And then maybe right in here, along there, just for a little more definition. And then I think on the face. Oh, I meant to get that and this and in there, and then right here, the grill on the face. I'll get it in there. And that will be our super quick Space Wolf. So right about now, you should be seeing him with the super simple base scheme that I've been doing all these Marines in. I would, if I was painting an actual army, I'd spend a little more time on the bases, but none of these are going in an actual army. And if they end up in an army, I'll rebase them to be a fancier scheme. But for this series, I'm just going to put them all in the same basic base so they all look good next to each other. So yeah, that'll do it for this episode. The next episode will be the Imperial Fists, coming out either the same day, later today as you watch this video, or maybe the next day. We'll see. If you liked this video and like this sort of video, feel free to like it and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you on the next one.